Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you all for having us today. It's a pleasure to be here. And I have such fond memories in this room. 6 years of my life was spent down here on Wednesday nights with confirmation. And you are a lot less rowdy.
It's not over yet.
Oh, good. I love the challenge. Thank you. My name is Mary Parker. I've been a member at St. Michael for, almost 30 years. And almost as long as I've worked at the Office on Aging, which is such a coincidence. Mary Ann Eusebio and I are going to present information on the agency. I have to give Mary Ann a little bit of an introduction. She is the director of our Information and Assistance Program. And with any kind of government funding, we use a lot of acronyms. And I almost called it INA, which you wouldn't know what that is, but Information and Assistance. So you're going to hear ENOA a lot, and ENOA means Eastern Nebraska Office on Aging. So we will spell out those acronyms if we accidentally use them, but in the meantime, Mary Ann's got a lot of resources and information on the agency, and I'll talk to you about the volunteer department. So let's give it up for Mary Ann.
Which ones are yours? I have cheaters, and I never know where. I have probably 5 pairs, so I didn't want to take Mary's. So anyway, we'll begin now. So the Eastern Nebraska Office on Aging. How many of you have heard of us before? Yay, that's always great. We love doing community presentations because the more people who know about us and that can connect people in their neighborhood, in their family, in their church, it's a good thing. We have been around. We're going to be celebrating our 50th anniversary this summer, but there are over 600 area agencies on aging across the country. So if you have friends and family in other parts of the United States, you can call our information and assistance area, and we can connect you to that area agency that might be able to connect them or provide services that you're going to hear about today. Area agencies on aging came about in the 60s when people were complaining to their elected officials that there really weren't enough programs and services to enable people to age in place in their communities. So Lyndon Johnson established the Older Americans Act, and that is sort of our roadmap for how all area agencies provide their programs and services. We plan, develop, and coordinate a whole range of services, and really our goal is to keep older adults independent in their own homes for as long as possible. And the Older Americans Act determines that the services that we provide start at age 60. But that doesn't mean that if you're under 60, you can't call us and get information. We get funding based on a federal formula on the number of older adults age 60 and over in the service area. So we serve Douglas, Sarpy, Dodge, Washington, and Cass counties. So it's a random formula. I don't know how it works, but we get federal, state, and county funds for our programs and services. All area agencies provide services in these 5 target areas, and I'm going to be talking about them and Mary throughout the presentation. And it's really casual, so if there's something you don't understand or if you have a question, shout it out or raise your hand, and I'll be around to answer questions at the end if you're shy and don't want to talk. And then there's an info table in the back, so there's plenty of opportunity to get information. So in the state of Nebraska, there are 8 area agencies on aging. Our agency has the smallest number of counties that we provide service to, but probably the most populated. So if you need to get connected to somebody or connect someone in Nebraska, I have this map and I can share it with you. So elder rights is a big focus area of the Older Americans Act. Our area information and assistance provides that information. And really, how many of you have gotten those scam calls? How many of you have gotten those texts that say, oh, you've been compromised, call this random number? Or if you're on your computer, you know, the alarm comes off. What we tell people, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And we just remind people about we keep a pulse on what the active scams are that are in our service area. We try and alert people to that. And it just, I probably don't need to tell you this, but you know, don't answer the phone if you really don't recognize the number. Your friends will leave you a voicemail message. Caller ID, use it. Once these scammers get you on the phone, they can talk you into giving up anything. This is their job. This is what they do. So just be careful and, you know, pay attention to your statements. If you have family members who are older, you know, check in on them. Older adults who might be isolated and don't have family members around checking in with them sometimes are very vulnerable. And what we find a lot of times when we go out to a lot of the centers, the participants will come up afterwards and they'll say, oh, I was too afraid to tell my daughter that I gave someone my bank information or my social security number or something because I don't want her to put me in a nursing home. But the thing is, you need to tell someone. Or if you get a piece of mail or if you get a phone call and they want you to act now, you know, say, hold on, give me your phone number, I'll call you back. And maybe have somebody that you trust and say, hey, I got this phone call, or look at this piece of mail, is it legitimate? The IRS won't call you. The IRS won't threaten to arrest you over the phone. A lot of scams that are going on right now, people are calling to say that they are law enforcement and that you haven't paid a fine. Again, law enforcement is not going to call you. You can't get arrested by the IRS via the phone. If you know, those gift card things are 9 times out of 10 they're scams. So we just like to kind of shout that out there and just keep that in the back of your head when you get those random texts or emails. And I just delete them. I don't even open them. Just be cautious. We partner with Legal Aid of Nebraska. I'm not a lawyer, Mary's not a lawyer. We don't have lawyers on staff at our agency, but we partner with Legal Aid of Nebraska and they operate the Elder Access Line, which is free legal advice for adults age 60 and over. They have a target areas that they provide information on. I have their card in the back, but it's always good to have that number and you can call them and, you know, run their situation by one of their people on the call center. There are paralegals and lawyers on the other end. Sometimes you have to leave a message, but that's who we partner with. We don't have lawyers on staff for legal situations. We also have an ombudsman staff. They're advocates for residents in long-term and assisted living facilities. Mary's going to talk a little bit more about them, but they also are looking out for those residents. So what's the cost of our services? Again, the Older Americans Act states that clients need to be given the opportunity to contribute towards the services that they receive. We operate on a sliding scale fee rate basis based on the client's monthly income. And you are sent out a contribution statement and you pay what you can towards the cost of the services. People are like, so your services are free. It depends on how you look at it. They're not really free. We're asking you to contribute, and most of our clients realize that the value of the services that we're providing to them are what's keeping them in their home. So that's, you know, I don't know if anybody is just jumping up and down. I have my spot reserved in long-term care. I'm dying to get there. So, you know, certainly it's a place when it's appropriate, but most people want to stay in their own home as long as they can. So any of the contributions that we receive go right back into those particular programs. And what are our in-home services? We have a care management program. We have care managers who work with our clients, and they provide guidance. And we have a homemaker program. It's every other week for a 2-hour visit. We have a bath aid program. Maybe someone is not feeling steady getting in and out of the shower on their own. Maybe they physically can't do it. They need somebody to help them. Our bath aid program is a 1-hour shower visit once or twice a week. We have the personal emergency response system where you can summons 911 or a family member when you've fallen. And another service is our Meals on Wheels program, which is probably the most widely known program of our programs and services. So what we do, the INA staff is who starts out, everybody is going to start out, if they're getting any care management services, you're going to start out with INA. We just do a basic referral over the phone. We ask basic questions. We do ask that income. We don't look at bank statements or anything like that. We just ask for your gross monthly income to put that on the sheet so that the care manager can tell you what your sliding scale fee is. Our care managers are social workers and nurses, but they're not performing any hands-on care. They're just there to guide you and talk to you about the services and provide information and resources when you need it. How many of you know someone who is a full-time caregiver to a family member or a loved one? It's tough, isn't it? At our agency, we recognize that there are a lot of people out there who are doing this. So we have a caregiver support program, and we are trying to support that family caregiver. How many of you who know caregivers or are a caregiver feel like you never get a break and nobody can do it like you can and you don't want to leave? So our caregiver support program provides respite to that family caregiver. They encourage them, the caregiver is our client. And so they are encouraged by the care manager who is assigned to them to take a break. It could be going upstairs and taking a nap or taking a shower. We provide so many hours of respite a week by one of the providers, or we provide so many days a month at an adult day program. So we are trying to support that family caregiver because sometimes what happens is the family caregiver might get sick themselves, and then that doesn't do anybody any good. So our caregiver support program right now has about 100 clients that we're assisting, and we're trying to give that family member, the caregiver, a break and encourage them to take time for themselves so that they can continue being a healthy caregiver. How many of you have heard, and I'm going to back up just 1 minute. I'm not going to move the slide because I'll mess it up. We use contracted providers for all of our in-home services. We're not a licensed home health care agency, so we use contracted providers. They've gone through an application process. They've provided us with insurance, all the necessary paperwork, and they're approved by our governing board to be providers for our clients. So we're not a licensed home health care agency, and it's the consumer choice. You get to pick which provider that you use. And that's the same for the caregiver support program as well. And our adult day providers that we contract with have also gone through that process. So I should have said that earlier. So how many of you have heard of the term Medicaid or Medicaid waiver? Oh, good. So that's about all I know. No, just kidding. We provide service coordination for the Medicaid waiver program. We partner with the Department of Health and Human Services. We are one of the contracted providers for service coordination, as is the League of Human Dignity. So what that means is, for those of you who don't know what the Medicaid waiver program is, it's for people who are on Medicaid or eligible or applying for Medicaid, and they are at nursing home level of care, but you are choosing to waive that higher level of care to get the care you need either at an assisted living facility that accepts Medicaid waiver for payment, or getting that service at home through providers that are contracted to provide that help at home. So that's the Medicaid waiver program. It is booming, and I think our service coordinators, we have 15, 20 right now, and they each have probably 50 on their caseload. So it's a very big program, and you can choose our agency or the League of Human Dignity. And if anybody is on Medicaid and thinks that they might need Medicaid waiver services, you can call our office and we'll provide you with this referral line number. We don't have anything to do with the application process or certifying if you are eligible for the Medicaid waiver program or approved for that. That's done through DHHS, but once you get approved, you can choose the Eastern Nebraska Office on Aging to do service coordination or the League of Human Dignity. Nutrition, we have, that's a big key factor in the Older Americans Act, the funding that we receive. We have our Meals on Wheels program, we have congregate meal sites, our senior centers, we have a Diner's Choice program, and we have a grab and go nutrition program. The Older Americans Act, obviously nutrition is a big part of it. We're tasked with providing healthy and appealing meals, providing some health education, and reducing that nutrition risk for people, and reducing social isolation and increasing interaction with older adults. And again, at our senior centers, they're also doing kind of what Mary and I are doing today, is kind of keeping an eye on those participants that come to the senior centers and connecting them with resources, either just to our office or in their own community. Our Meals on Wheels program, I'm sure all of you probably have know someone who has been a participant or received meals, or maybe there's some people in your congregation who are volunteer drivers for our Meals on Wheels program. But the key factor for our Meals on Wheels program is that you need to be homebound and either mentally or physically unable to prepare meals. Right now, our program is serving about 650 people a day getting meals. For some of those participants, our Meals on Wheels driver is the only person that they might come into contact with throughout the course of their day. So it's kind of a safety check. We're making sure they answer the door when they're supposed to. We're making sure they're looking okay. And if our drivers, they've been trained to kind of report back to the office, gee, Betty didn't really look that good today when she came to the door. She took a long time to answer. Sometimes our drivers have found our Meals on Wheels participants on the floor. They've had to call 911. We can't do any life-saving methods. We have to call 911. But it's a great program, and again, it's that sliding scale fee. We ask clients to contribute, and they get the statements at the end of the month. We also, DHHS doesn't have a Meals on Wheels program, so if people who are on Medicaid economic assistance and need meals, they get their authorization from DHHS, and then we provide that meal, and then we bill DHHS. We also partner with the Nebraska Humane Society. A lot of older adults have pets, and their pets mean a lot to them. They're their companion. They help keep them happy in their home. And think about it, these are homebound adults. And so what do you think they were doing with the meal that they were getting? So we kind of realized that, and so we partner with the Humane Society, and anybody who is on our Meals on Wheels program, and if they need food for their pet, they can fill out an application, and the Humane Society provides them with food for their pet, the appropriate food, and then they can eat their meal. So there are probably 150 We serve meals Monday through Friday between the hours of 11 and 1:30, and we have a box lunch option for those people who, again, don't have any means to get food or no one to check in on them. And so that box lunch is delivered with Thursday and Friday's meals for Saturday and Sunday. And so I think we have about 150, maybe 200 people that get those box lunch meals. We had bad weather a few weeks ago. How fun was that? We do provide at the beginning of each season shelf staple meals for participants when we're unable to get out and deliver. Our volunteers are, a lot of them are older adults, and so we have volunteer drivers and paid route drivers. So we don't, we want to make sure they're safe. So there were several days last week, I think it's never happened this many days, that we did not deliver, we were not able to deliver meals. So they did have some shelf staple meals that they could utilize, and then we replenished them last week. But it's always dicey. We hate to not deliver meals, but sometimes it does happen. Our senior centers, that's where we do a lot of the health promotion, the health education. A lot of senior centers have older adult volunteers helping them out. The participants, again, need to be 60 years of age or older. If you're under 60, you can certainly attend. You have to pay the full price for the meal. A lot of the senior centers are more active than others. We have some in all of our 5-county service area, but there are a lot of, I recommend you check a bunch of them out and then find one that kind of fits what you're looking for. But they have games, they have exercise programs, health education, chair bingo, chair volleyball, bingo, all kinds of fun activities going on all the time. We also have a Diner's Choice program. How many of you live near a Hy-Vee? So the Diner's Choice program, again, it's another way for, a lot of people don't qualify for Meals on Wheels. They do not want to attend a senior center. It's just not their thing. So the Diner's Choice program, we partner with Hy-Vee, and you purchase meal tickets in advance, and you can go to their deli area and get a food selected. They have a set menu item that you can choose from for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and you can go there with your friends and eat when it's convenient for you. So that is a very popular program. I had one gentleman come in and he said that his wife goes to a sewing group with some other ladies, and so the spouses get together at one of the local Hy-Vees and have breakfast while their wife is at their meeting. So it's social, the only Hy-Vee we're not in at this time is the Gretna one. We're not there yet because they're fairly new and we haven't set it up yet there, but that's our hope to get to that one as well. But it's a nice way to get, if you don't feel like cooking, you can eat at Hy-Vee. I do have the brochure in the back with the different menu items, but it's a great program. And then we also have, I don't know if it's here, we have a grab and go option. Again, some people they don't want to go into a senior center, so some of the senior centers have a grab and go option. It's that same meal that you would get if you ate at the center, but you can just walk in, get it, and take it to go. So information and assistance, so that's my area. I tell people I love my job. I'm a people person. I like talking to people on the phone. I like helping people, and I learn something new every day. So I really want to encourage you, if you have a situation or if you're looking for a resource, it's never wrong to call our INA area. I have some great staff that have been there a long time, and we answer questions, we connect you to resources. I brought a lot of them here with me today, so feel free to look back at the table and take whatever you need. But we go to meetings, we go to energy assistance meetings, we go to networking groups to kind of find out what new resources are out there to connect people to programs and services that they may need. So we are out there call us. We get calls around St. Patrick's Day. They want to know how they cook their corned beef. Yep, true story. I send them to the nutrition department because I throw my corned beef in the crock pot. It's kind of simple. I had one gentleman call me. He wanted to know how would he know if the pineapple that he just purchased at Walmart, how's he going to know if it's ripe or not? And I said, well, sir, I'm really sorry. You kind of get what you get. And it's not going to get any better. It'll get worse. And so I said, you just have to cut it and hope for the best. And he goes, well, I guess if it's no good, I'll put ketchup on it. I told him that probably wouldn't be what I do with it. But anyway, all kinds of questions all day long, and we're happy. That's what we do. If somebody wants to talk about in-home services, they're going to call us. We're going to ask simple questions. What's going on? How could and then we'll suggest programs and take that referral and send it on. So it's a 444-6444 area code 402. So that's call us up. We also, if you belong to any other groups, we're happy to do presentations. And tell people about what we do. This is our 4-page brochure that talks about all of our programs and services, so grab one on your way out. Aging and Disability Resource Center, or ADRC. So that is a fairly new, Nebraska was one of the last states to come on board with the ADRCs. It's statewide, and really what it is just a way to connect people of any age who might have a disability to programs and services that might benefit them. Obviously, if you're 60 and over and would benefit from some of our services, we can connect you to our services. But some people are new to the area, they don't know where to go. We're lucky in our service area, there are a lot of agencies out there that help people who have a disability. So it's really just a means to connect people to what agency that might serve them the best. There's an ADRC website, and again, we have options counselors at our agency to kind of listen to the story and guide them to the right place. Volunteer services. So I'm going to turn this over to Mary Parker, and she's going to talk about the volunteer services. Any questions, though, before she pops up? And again, I'm going to be around at the end, so write them down. Okay, Mary.
All right. Thank you so much, Mary Ann.
Anytime. I talk a lot.
She doesn't get that resource queen title for nothing. She can find anything. Therefore, people are calling you for recipes.
Yes.
So if they do, there's a lady in back that is she's the recipe girl.
Okay,
so.
okay. I'll ask her
I'm talking about you, Pat.
what to do with corned beef.
Refer to the excellent cook. So, yes, you never know what we're going to get. I don't know if you noticed Mary Ann mentioned the word volunteer several times throughout her presentation. How many of you in this room have either volunteered or currently volunteer? Am I preaching to the choir? And guess anything you do here at church, I see all of you. I know 100% of you should have raised your hand, because anything that you're doing out of the goodness of your heart that takes your extra time is volunteering. And I know a lot of you just have it in your soul, and we just think of that's just part of what we do. The one thing I wanted to ask if anybody would be willing to share is if you are a volunteer or have volunteered, why did you do it? Can I ask the why? To give, I'll give you some. I'm gonna put you on the spot because when Pastor does this,
you feel better.
yes,
It's your health. It's for your health.
thank you. Do you want a job? Because
I've got jobs.
you said, yes, speaking to probably one of our master volunteers here. Yes, it makes you feel better. We do it with the intention of helping, but it can actually help us. So we're fortunate right now that there has been a lot of research on the benefits of volunteering, the health benefits. And they're listed up here. We have actually had a couple of our programs, a couple of our volunteers that participated in a long-term study around 2010 to 2015. They studied these volunteers when they began volunteering, during their volunteer work, and a follow-up survey to get some input on this. And it was fascinating because the volunteers go into it to give, but then they find out, wow, I didn't realize how great it is to have a routine, a purpose. I have a reason to get up every morning. I am helping other people, and doggone it, I go to the doctor about half of the time that I used to go, or half as much as I used to go. So when you're talking about funding these programs with taxpayer money, these are the best bang for the buck when you're talking out of that perspective, because we're not only saving money on Medicare, Medicaid, we're delaying long-term care for some folks that needed that purpose and reason to get out. Less disability. We find that our volunteers, the longer they stay physically active, we are told that that is decreasing disability. Actually, physical limitations goes along with that. And naturally, increased levels of well-being and strength and energy. Our volunteers get out there and they feel better about their everyday life and this purpose that they have, and so it's not a surprise to see that. I just think it's fascinating when you get a person like Jim saying this, you get them out there and talking about this. About 90% of our volunteers come from word of mouth. They see their friends doing it, they see them staying active, and it's great. So we have several volunteer opportunities that I'm going to talk to you about. 400 volunteers, average of 400 volunteers serve with the Eastern Nebraska Office on Aging, which comes out to be about 100,000 hours of service per year that is given to our agency. We figured this out, and if we were to fund the staff for this, it would be funding 48 full-time positions to do the work that our volunteers do every day. And if we didn't have the volunteers, we wouldn't get 650 meals delivered on a daily basis. We wouldn't have people who are isolated in their homes having companions. We wouldn't be getting the extra services that are out there. We may not have strong advocates for our nursing home residents. So I'll tell you a little bit about each one of these programs. And this is my first slide, so, oh, yes.
It worked.
It worked. It worked. The first program I'll talk to you about is our Ombudsman program. And Ombudsman, if any of you have not heard of it, is a Scandinavian term for advocate. So these are advocates that are trained and certified by the state of Nebraska to go into long-term care facilities or assisted living facilities and speak on behalf of the resident. They advocate for their rights, not necessarily what's in the best interest of the resident, but what their right is. And I went through the training for with the Ombudsman staff last month. I get in where I can on this, and our state Ombudsman made a very good point. It's not in the best interest of the resident, it's what is their right. And she gave the example of a gentleman who wanted to smoke, and that was his right. It wasn't necessarily in his best interest, but it was his right to do what he had been doing in his own home. And some things, of course, they are trained, like I said, I think 24 hours of training initially, going through all of the regulations about what those rights are, but this is their new home, and those rights have to be respected. So going a little bit further into the Ombudsman program, these are volunteers 21 years old and older who receive a lot of training. Like I said, the 24 hours initial, and then more with shadowing, and then they have monthly in-service training to total 18 hours of extra training per year. They are assigned to one long-term care facility. We have 52 long-term care facilities in our 5-county area. 75 assisted living facilities. It's our goal to have a volunteer in every one of those. We are at 29 volunteers currently. We're hoping to build up to at least get one in every long-term care. That way, those residents get a visit from this volunteer on a weekly basis. They go about 2 to 3 hours per week, and they can go any time of day or weekend. Show up, do their rounds, be that person that speaks for their rights. If their coffee is always cold, it's not a big deal to some. Coffee is a very important thing. It's a very important part of my day, and I want it hot. And just because I move into long-term care, I don't want cold coffee. But I really don't want to, they're busy. I don't want to put anyone out. They don't have time for little things like that when someone down the hall has more serious issues. Well, that ombudsman will not be the one making the hot coffee, but they can put that on the list for the staff. The ombudsman are not to be a threat to those staff as they walk in. They're to be there supporting them, but also speaking on behalf of the resident. Yes.
When you mention long-term care facilities, is there someone also connected at an Alzheimer's facility?
Yes, we do have ombudsman staff that go into memory care if it's at an assisted living or a long-term care facility. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
I understand that probably they can't complain, but then let's say they have a caretaker that comes, or should I say my mother, and to have someone to talk to.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Every resident can have contact with the ombudsman.
And there should be a sign at the facility letting you know the phone number and who to contact.
Well, this is now since passed, but
Right.
it's just,
But yes, good thing to bring up though.
Very good, yes. And we have ombudsman volunteers and staff that meet with families. If families need to have that contact, you can call them with questions. Sometimes they're part of the care plan meeting. That way, if they can't speak on their own behalf or they have a fear of doing that ombudsman can be their security. So, yes, very good question. And again, we are needing volunteers, but it's a tough situation where we have volunteers that work full-time, and to take the time for all of the training and then the once a week visit to the long-term care facility is challenging, but we've got some very dedicated volunteers. We actually increased our staff in this program a few years ago because the program makes such an impact on those residents when they can have someone speak for them. So our ombudsman staff will do training for new staff. You may have a new CNA that comes in that didn't get certain types of training in school, and they are unaware that you should knock before you enter a room. Something very simple, but not everyone is taught that. They walk in, this is their home. So that type of training goes a long ways. They provide information and resources to families, residents, and staff, act as advocates, and identify solutions to the problems that they receive. Our next program that I'm going to talk about is our Senior Help Volunteer Program. This is a program for people of all ages. I should have told you at the beginning, our youngest volunteer at ENOA is 3 years old, and he drug in a cooler bigger than him the other day after delivering Meals on Wheels. He wasn't driving. His mommy was driving. But they start at a young age. Our oldest volunteer currently is 91. She is a foster grandparent volunteer, and she applied with our agency at age 90. She called up and said, I need something to do. I love kids. Can I work with kids? And we brought her in. Our oldest volunteer at ENOA since I've been there was 99 years old. Her name was Gussie, and she was a senior companion volunteer. She served at the Friendship Center. She took the bus every day, served 20 hours a week, and said, Mary, I just love working with those old people. And so it's all up here. So, like I said, our youngest volunteer at 3, his mom is enrolled in our senior help program, and she signs a parent permission form for him to go along with her. And we have, I would guess, half of our volunteers deliver Meals on Wheels that are in this program. There are hundreds of volunteers enrolled. We do some handyman and yard work services, and people always get excited when we talk about the yard work. For older adults, you'll have somebody that will do it. Well, we are slim pickings on the lawn mowing and snow removal. And I'll tell you why. It's because people don't always want to haul a snowblower or a lawnmower in their car. Sometimes it helps if someone has it. But if you do know someone in great need of lawn services, our INA department is fantastic at listening to you and giving you the right place to call. It's the Better Business Bureau, but let me crush a myth that was on Channel 6 a couple weeks ago. They do not provide free snow shoveling for seniors. They got a little mixed up with that. So, but anyway, yeah, I know when I saw that, my eyes got real big. They provide companionship. Sometimes we have volunteers that have their weekends free. They're working full-time during the week. And we had one that every Saturday he took his client to Dairy Queen. An older guy in his home, and he said, if I could get out once a week, I'd go to Dairy Queen, and this volunteer says, it's done. We're going to do that. So Meals on Wheels, as I've told you, program assistance. We have a big holiday drive where we have about 700, 800 gifts piled up in our agency. People adopt our clients that don't have anyone else at Christmas. And they have wish lists, and they buy these gifts, and then we have many of our volunteers get out and deliver those gifts at Christmas. They also provide some home assistance. We've had some walls painted. We've had people needing help with a light bulb, organizing a closet, transportation to the grocery store, not regular ongoing transportation such as to dialysis, which we wish we did have a service here that could do that, but intermittent transportation, personal assistance, figuring out that blinking 12 o'clock on the old VCR. We have a volunteer that can help with that, and seasonal assistance. The next 2 programs I'll tell you about are rather unique, and when I started at the agency, I found out I had to do payroll for volunteers, and I was scratching my head wondering, how does that work? Well, these 2 programs, Senior Companions and Foster Grandparents, are part of a national organization called AmeriCorps Seniors. We have opportunities for people 55 and older to commit to 10 hours a week minimum, and they receive a tax-free stipend of $4 per hour, transportation reimbursement, meal reimbursement, and this is if they meet an income guideline. So they do have to have a modest income to qualify. We have some people that may exceed that income guideline, but are burdened by huge medical bills, and that $4 per hour stipend helps to keep them off some other assistance or services. We have individuals that live in senior housing that pay rent according to their income, and the stipend does not interfere with that at all. So it is a great program for people who really have the energy and time to commit, but they don't have the resources that it takes to be a volunteer. Because our volunteers give more than just their time. It's their gas to get there. Our Meals on Wheels drivers, I've always wanted to do a study on how much mileage they donate to our agency every year. Someday, when we get the technology, we will be able to do that. But it is quite amazing. So those who want to give can get out and do that. Back to President Johnson, he and Sergeant Shriver put their heads together in 1965, said people are retiring, but they're a little healthier than they used to be, and not financially able to retire because they don't have enough. So They looked at that situation. They also looked at a situation that they were working on with institutionalized children and the lack of bonding. And that he said, why don't we take this group of seniors who have the time but don't have the money to volunteer, give them a tax-free stipend, and have them help these kids that are needing their attention and love. So that's where foster grandparents started. Senior Companions 10 years later were modeled, or foster grandparents was the model program for Senior Companions, where we have senior companions who provide services in the homes of other seniors. So they go in and do just that. They provide companionship, company. We work with a lot of people who previously were very isolated and lonely. So this is a regular person that they see ongoing. We've had volunteers that have been seeing their clients for more than 10 years in some cases. So no cost to the client. If you know someone that can benefit by having a senior companion, we can serve Warren Buffett, as we say. There's no income guideline for someone to receive this free service. And these volunteers can provide social and recreational activities, somebody to eat their lunch with, personal assistance. We are very careful with that. We have some clear-cut rules that they are not hands-on medical. They don't do anything. They can't even hand someone their pills, but can they help them get their clothes out and ready for the day? That works. They also help with respite care. We were talking about our caregiver support program, and we've been working closely with them on the caregivers that need the additional respite. We have a senior companion volunteer that can come in and provide those services on a regular basis at no cost. Foster grandparents serve in elementary schools primarily, pre-elementary and Head Start programs, health sites, and after-school programs. And these are volunteers who adore children. They spend 10 hours a week with them, helping them keep up if they're falling behind. I was telling you a little bit about how they used to be placed in institutions with children in the 1960s. Now they're in our public schools. So we call this program the win-win-win, because the children receive the extra attention they need to practice reading. The teachers receive that one-on-one that can take that child out in the hallway and do those and help them with their academics, and the communities are better off because we keep our teachers going if we have the extra help. So how many of you have heard of foster grandparents and senior companions? Yay, okay, great. I gave you the qualifications earlier. I do need to update this slide. It's a minimum of 10 hours per week. We have some volunteers that go 40 hours per week. They receive ongoing in-service training to keep them empowered with their own health and with helping them with their volunteer experience. They complete 20 hours of pre-service training, and all of our senior companions who go into the homes and foster grandparents who go into the schools, and I should add, our senior help volunteers and our ombudsman volunteers are screened. These two programs require a lot more screening, such as fingerprints and the NSOPW check, and the other programs we do mostly state patrol, and we do have a nationwide search as well for one program. But we want people to feel rest assured that if we're sending volunteers to work with their parents or their loved one, that they are fully screened. And we take that down to even our Meals on Wheels drivers, because anytime we give out personal information of a client, such as their address, we are going to make sure we've got all of our background checks completed. This is probably the weirdest slide you will ever see, because I could not get the text in. So we're gonna talk about the Sienna Francis House beds. Our last volunteer program is called ENOA Volunteer Connect. We connect people 55 and older with community organizations that need our help, and we provide some volunteer opportunities for people who want to volunteer in place in their home. We found that a lot during COVID, that people didn't want to get out in the community and volunteer because they felt safer in their home. So our coordinator came up with some ideas, and she has recruited people who sew, people who knit, people who will write cards. We write cards of encouragement to kids at Boys Town. And we just heard from one of the directors at Boys Town the other day about the impact that those cards of encouragement are making on those kids, that somebody cares. And we're also keeping our volunteers active longer. Even if you can't get out, you can still give. So this slide is the result of a huge donation of king-size duvet covers that the Sienna Francis House had in their warehouse one day. Somebody brought this huge anonymous donation. They think it came from one of the fancy hotels downtown because they were all king-size, they were all duvet covers. And Sienna Francis called Tia, our coordinator of this program that I'm telling you about, and said, we have 80 king-size duvet covers and we have 180 twin-size beds. Can you help? So Tia reached out to her sewing group, who then called their sewing friends, and before you knew it, we had 180 twin-size, beautiful duvet covers, and we were able to turn those around and give them back to the Sienna Francis House. The impact that made on the people doing it had just as much as the people receiving it. Sienna Francis was very grateful, and the clients were not having scratchy cot quilts in their beds anymore, and it was just, you know, if you think one little act of kindness can go a long ways, it can. So I think that's it.
Okay. Okay. So the last thing, we do have a website, which is just ENOA.org. We have a lot of information on our website, a lot of lists, housing lists, assisted living facility lists, long-term care, retirement community lists, legal information, and so check it out. This is our publication that's called New Horizons. I don't know if any of you subscribe to it. It's free if you're age 60 and over and live in our service area, which I think everybody here is in that category. Lives in our service area, maybe not 60. And the idea behind it is that it portrays a positive image of older adults. There's a lot of timely information in the newspaper around tax time or homestead exemption time. Just a lot of really good information. If any of you know of a really interesting older adult that you'd like to think would be a good feature story in New Horizons, get a hold of them. They are always looking for new story ideas. So that's our New Horizons. This is our last slide. I call it the Wave the Wand slide. There's a lot of urban legends out there about area agencies on aging in general, and in the Eastern Nebraska Office on Aging. Unfortunately, due to our funding, we don't offer financial assistance. We might be able to direct somebody towards financial assistance. It's getting less and less in our service area. We get calls daily from people who are looking for ongoing rental assistance, just situational assistance. Somebody wanted us to buy them a car, all kinds of things, and we can direct them to for certain situations, like maybe for utilities, we might have some resources, but it's not us. We don't offer financial assistance. We're not DHHS. People call us up and they want to know the status of their Medicaid application, or if we could move them to the front of the line, you know, wink, wink. Can't help you out. We can give you a contact for that. We can't come out tomorrow to provide a service for you. Our services take time to set up, even our care management services, our Meals on Wheels. We take the referral, we send it out that day, but it does take time to set up and assign. We do the referrals in the order that we receive them. So if someone is needing, assistance like tomorrow, you're gonna have to go to a home care agency or, find a friend to do it and pay privately for that service, maybe until our services can get set up. A lot of people think, Mary talked about the volunteer programs, a lot of people think that they can just call us up and we have volunteers waiting in a room in our agency, with those snow blowers and those lawn mowers, and they'll say, come out and, cut my lawn, or, I need to get out of my driveway, or come shovel my walk. It takes time, and we have volunteers. And it's their choice. They choose what things they can and can't do. We'll take the request. There's no guarantee as to if or when that ticket will be picked up by a volunteer. And again, we get a lot of calls from people once we send out those contributions. What do you mean? Is this a bill? I thought your services were free. I did talk about that earlier. It's a suggested contribution. You can pay some of it, all of it, or none of it and still receive the services, but we are required by our funder to send out that contribution statement. Let's see, what else? I think that's it. So again, and we're not 911. Again, we get people who call up and they're like, I fell. I can't come pick you up. But again, we're happy to stick around and ask any questions. And I would just encourage you, if you have friends in other states, say, hey, have you talked to the Area Agency on Aging that might represent you? We're here to help. That's what we get our funding for. And the only question that is a silly question is the one that you don't ask. So any questions?
Does it take a lot of training to be an ombudsman?
There's 24 hours of initial training, and those training opportunities come up several times a year. And
Mary, can you use the mic?
Oh,
and
yes.
repeat the question?
yes,
Straight.
I'll just use my outside voice. Yes, she said, does it take a lot of training to become an ombudsman volunteer? And it is 24 hours of initial training, then some shadowing with someone who's an experienced ombudsman going into the facility, and then 18 hours of additional training per year. And they provide those opportunities on a monthly basis, so they come up with the training for them.
Yes.
Yes.
Where is the training?
At usually at the Eastern Nebraska Office on Aging, but I'm this close to getting my goal from 2020 that we can have it done virtually, so that people can do it at home and then come meet at that. I do have to say the in-person training is wonderful because you can meet the other ombudsman volunteers and get questions answered at that time. So maybe a little of each would be nice. But we are at 132nd and L Street. We can see Sam's and we can see Western Bowl, if you know where that is.
Do you start those classes periodically?
Yes, we have our state ombudsman in Lincoln that provides the training. So she sets up training twice a year, but we have found we need it more because we have volunteers that are interested more often than that. So we're working on a virtual component for a part of that. And usually it's when we can get a big class of volunteers together. So, yes. Any
So
other questions?
please help yourself to the resources on the back table, and thank you again for this opportunity. We really appreciate it.
Yes.
So this is what we call the Senior Blue Book. It's a resource. We don't publish it, but it's a good resource for different things in our 5-county service area. This is also an elder care resource handbook. I have a few here today. I also have more back at the office, and it's a free publication. we just distribute them for the people who publish it. But both good resources, so grab one, and if you want more of this one, I'll send them in with Mary. So I'll just take your name, and Mary will make sure you get them. So, thank you.